Good afternoon, my turtle ducks. Thank you for joining me for this Let's Make, where I'll show you how I make different meals that are filling but not too time or labor intensive to make. Today we'll be making Colcannon for Embeleg. This is a very easy meal that can be made with as few as 4 ingredients: potatoes, cabbage, ground meat or TVP, and water and or milk. To get started, we'll want to cut our potatoes. Now, you can peel your potatoes first, but I find that a bit too intensive for me, and I don't mind the skins. So you'll want to wash and then cut your potatoes. Once we've cut up our potatoes, it's time to rinse them. You don't need to rinse for every meal, but because Colcannon is more of a soup than it is a mashed potato dish, we do want to rinse those extra starches. So we just want to rinse until the water is mostly clear. You could save this water for watering plants, but for this case, I didn't. Next, we'll just bring in enough water to cover our potatoes. With our potatoes covered, it's time to season them. So I'm using something very simple, just roasted garlic powder, Italian herb mix, and salt. It's very difficult to oversalt potatoes, but if you're nervous, add a little less than you think. You can always add more salt later. I like to mix it up, and then we leave it to cook. It takes 30 to 40 minutes to make the potatoes nice and tender. You want them soft enough that they are easily pierced by a fork. I drained the potatoes here to make it easier to mash by hand, but since we're making soup, you don't actually need to drain the liquid in this case. If you do want to drain it for easier mashing, you can add it back in after you're done mashing your potatoes. Next, it's time to brown our meat. Because ground meat can be easily contaminated, it's important to cook it very thoroughly. You want to cook it until it is brown all the way through with no pink signs. To keep the flavors consistent, I added the roasted garlic powder and Italian herbs and a little bit of salt to my meat as well. We're going to leave the fat from the meat in the pan, so don't drain it out. Instead, we're going to use it to saute our cabbage. We're just going to saute our cabbage until it's mostly wilted, and then we can add it into our soup. Once we've added the cabbage and meat, we can stir it in. If it's too thick, you can add a little bit more of your cream or water, depending on what you're using. I like a nice thick soup, so I didn't add anything extra. And with that, you're all done. If you try this recipe, please let me know what you think of it. I hope you have a wonderful Embeleg. Remember to light a candle. Until next time, be kind, my turtle ducks, to each other and to yourselves.